So let's go ahead and start with bubble number, I'm sorry, we're in bubble 8, lesson or section A. So it says spinning. So let's take a look. All right, it says rotation and spinning. Do this. Use the counter pattern with pan sprite rotation property to make it spin as in the image on the right. Okay, so if I drag this over, I'm going to go ahead and hit run, and my pan is not moving at all. Okay, but it tells me I need to use the pan's sprite rotation property. Well, if I want to use any kind of property, I'm always going to start with my variable bar that looks like this, where I can set things into it. I know that I am going to be using the rotation property because it told me so. So rotation property goes in. I know that if in order for there to be continuous motion, I'm going to want to use a plus function. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in as well. So just like we did yesterday or the day before, just like we did for today's do now, we are going to have some motion happening. All right, so sprite rotation, it's not called sprite, it's called pan. I'm going to change that first to pan. And then I'm going to try it at 2. I don't know how fast or how slow that's going to be, but we'll find out. So I'm going to go ahead and hit a reset. Always like to have my grid on and then run. So that looks like it's a little fast to me. The example looks like it's moving a little slower. So to make it go slower, I'm going to use a smaller number. So instead of 2, I'm going to maybe go with 1. That definitely looks more like the picture in the instructions. So again, it told me to use this rotation property, and to give it a continuous motion, we are usually always going to use the counter function in the math. Once you're done, make sure you hit finish and continue. All right, our next activity is level B. Okay. Lesson B under, letter B in lesson 8. It says watch for the cycles X, watch for the cycle Y, run the program to see what happens to the properties and why the motorcycle disappears. Debug the program so the program looks like the image on the right. Awesome. Okay, so I see the motorcycle going from the lower left-hand corner, and it's traveling up to the upper right-hand corner. All right, so if I'm going to go hit reset run, I kind of saw something zip by. I'll try it again. You see it just for a moment, and then it's going off the screen. So obviously it's moving. It's just not moving the correct way. So once again, I'm going to put on my grid. All right, it says cycle. Let me first see where they're put. So we have created a cycle, and we created it at 0, 400. So it's being created right down here. That's where that cycle, that animation is being created. It's been given a rotation. Okay, cool. All right, I have a light gray background. Cycle X equals X plus 10. So that means every time it runs, it's going to move 10 over, 10 over, 10 over in the X. Cycle Y is plus 10 as well. Okay, here is the issue, ladies and gentlemen. This is 400 on the Y. So if I increase 10, it's going to go further down. Remember, 0 for the Y is up here. So I'm going to turn this into negative. Because if I have a negative number for the Y, that's going to be going up the axis. Again, notice if I start at 400, look at what happens with my X numbers. Minus 10, minus 10. As I go up, my Y's are getting smaller. So I need to minus 10. Now, if I reset and run it, there it is. Okay? So again, the key is make sure that you are aware of your positioning on your X, Y axis. Finally, today, we are going to finish up with letter C. Rotation direction. Make the gears rotate together. Okay, let's see what's going on with this one. All right. When you use the counter pattern for rotation with addition, this object will always rotate clockwise. Sometimes, however, you may want your sprite to rotate in the other direction. You can just use subtraction. There are 3 gears set up for you. You need to make the gears look like they are rotating in sync with each other. In other words, make them look like the picture. I'm going to drag that over. I always like to turn on my grid, and I'm going to run it. Okay, no one's rotating. Not an awesome look. Okay, so let's see how I can fix that. Well, I do have a draw function or draw loop already created, and I know if I want to do anything, I have to create those commands. So to do that, I'm always going to drag down these guys. And I have 3 gears, so I'm having 3 command areas set up. I know I'm going to need to use rotation, so I'm going to drag in 3 rotations. Oops. I know I'm going to have to use my counter. Now notice there's pluses and minuses. I'm not sure which ones are going to have to be pluses and which ones are going to have to be minuses yet. But I will figure that out. And I may need to come back and change some of this code in a minute, which is okay. Again, more sprite rotations. All right, so obviously my sprite isn't called sprite. I have blue gear, green gear, and red gear. And I am somebody who always has a bunch of typos, so I just like to copy and paste. So blue gear is second. Red gear is on top. And green gear is on the bottom. And again, all I'm doing is cutting and pasting these names down here because I am queen of the typo. Oh, did not mean to move that. I am just making my variables, the sprite names match the ones that I'm creating. All right, so I'm going to make all of these +1 for right now, just so I can see how or what happens. So I'm going to reset and I'm going to run this. Well, they're all spinning in the same way, which I kind of expected because I did make them all +1. But now if I'm looking, it looks like my red one is going the correct direction. My blue one should be spinning opposite, and my green one should be okay. So now, if I know what needs to be spinning opposite, there are 2 ways of doing this. Either you can just turn this to a negative number, -1, and now we'll see that the blue one is spinning in the opposite direction. The other way to do this, if you were so inclined, is under math, you can actually use the minus. And I'm kind of cheating right now. I just hate. I'm not. It's not going to let me do it. All right, so now when I run my program, ladies and gentlemen, we can see that everything looks pretty much like it does in the picture. All right. You guys can work on bubble number 9 on your own. I will leave that to you. And again, 10 is optional because they are the challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, if